And I wondered that you are obviously earning all this, but then you also have a burn rate. I mean, you run your own office, you're going to get someone else on board. You also have freelancers as well. So how do you think about managing all these things while you're still running this relatively young startup?
Wow. So
Actually, our office is very cheap.
yeah, our office is around 1K a month.
Yeah, which for the area that we're in, which
Yeah.
is pretty damn central,
Yeah.
it's pretty cheap. Like we knowingly took on some of the possible cons of this place. I mean, it's not in a bustling startup hub where there's a lot of. I mean, like you walk outside, it's just
It's a deserted mall.
yeah, it's deserted old mall. There's a fortune teller right there describing
All right, sure.
the scenery.
Sure, okay.
Maid agency, travel agency. It's an oldish mall, not very startup-y. We were thinking about doing like co-working space.
Yeah.
It seems more of the vibe, free coffee, that kind of thing. But we eschewed that for a much more humble and I think on-brand location. Actually, it is within our values to get a place that is cheaper than what actually we can afford. Live below our means. Yeah.
I think when it comes to employees, I calculated we should at least be able to take that on for a year, if not be irresponsible. So I mean, the priority is to pay them first before we pay us. So right now when we do sponsor content, we're like, okay, all this we will set aside for cost first.
Like T minus something to break even.
Yeah.
So T minus 100,000.
We break even first, then we talk about making money for ourselves. We try to be more responsible employees and also try to walk the talk. Employers. Yeah. For example, we hated this practice of like asking your staff how much of the salary, then base it off like 20% more, or you know what I mean? That annoying process they do in Singapore. I think for us, I want to do it like differently.
How much you want?
Yeah, so I just ask, hey, how much you want? Oh, I want this much. Then
okay.
I just look. Like can we afford it?
We decide. Do you think we can do it? Okay.
Yeah, I think can. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So don't lowball your people, because that's not a good way to get any people worth hiring. They will not come to a company that will lowball them. Yes, unless they are in desperate situations.
How did you know you were ready to take on another person? I mean, you have to scale, but you need to get to a certain point where you're ready to take on, right?
It was when we had to turn down work, right? Not because we didn't feel like it fit or didn't fit. We were turning down work because we had no capacity to fulfill it.
Yeah.
That's when we realized like there's too much coming in, and I'm okay with turning down stuff all day long if it's just because the fit is not right. You don't get our values, our brand. But when we're turning it down just because
cool stuff, right?
no capacity. Yeah, we're turning down cool stuff.
Yeah.
Just because we have no capacity, then it forces us to grow. And I'm a very independent person. I thrive off of being a very independent problem solver. Everything I don't know, I go and look up and learn myself. That's why I have a wide set of skills. Like I can do web design, I can do videography, I can do photography, I can shoot complete corporate videos, I can draw, I can do a lot of things. I can do motion graphics, a lot of stuff. But I also understand that maybe the way for me to grow now is to learn to delegate and to also learn to multiply my skill set and my wisdom, so to speak, across other people, so that it could be like 5 of me
more impact
more impact overall. Yeah.
I mean, for me it was like very, very difficult also. I can be quite a micromanager, so letting go of like control, I'm still quite stressed about it. And it takes some time to trust someone. But I think what drove me to telling Wei Choon, hey, I think I need to hire someone, was like, I was just pulling these late nights until 4 a.m. basically for 2 years since we started Woke Salaryman until January this year. And I just felt like, if I can't do this forever. So maybe I'll just hire someone to just help me out. Never mind, we don't earn so much money, but it's about sustainability. We can do this for longer.
I mean, I saw it as two parts, right? Yeah. One is that we stay as a two-man team, but we charge super boutique prices. So we charge a lot of money, and we only do like 1 or 2 sponsored stuff a month, and that's us.
Yeah.
Or we take on more people, give up a little bit of control, and there I say quality, although that's debatable, because you can do it in a way where quality too diminish or compromise.
Yeah.
And then we grow and I felt like the second one is more the way we need to grow. I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll find out this is all a mistake.
Yeah.
3
Who
months
knows?
later,
Who knows? Like,
then we go back to being two of us.
yeah, we will view, maybe we view this podcast like 5 years from now.
Yeah,
Like,
it's like,
what are we supposed to
when
pick?
we last left the Woke Salaryman, you know,
Yeah.
they were 4
Hey,
minutes
future Ruiming, am I right or wrong? Hey,
yeah.
please let me know.
Because you were wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
so the one that swung it for me was one of our friends who's a very successful boss. Her name is Juliana, and she runs a.
Shout out to Juliana Chan.
Shout out Juliana, yeah.
Asian Scientist magazine.
Asian,
Yes,
exactly, yes.
Asian little scientist.
Yeah, so she told us that, well, actually, it's not just about what you're talking about. If you have more people, you can do more things. And when we visited her, she was doing a whole bunch of stuff like charity here, you know, like videography section here,
Yeah.
and then, you know, like diversifying in all different ways. And then she herself is also doing a lot of LinkedIn promotion stuff. That's really cool. It's like, how does one person do so much? You hire, no?
Yeah.
So that's where I hope we can be also. That we can outsource and delegate enough that we can then work on the new pillars.
Yeah.
That's what I hope.
I think in the future we might want to expand overseas as well, and when that's involved, like it can't be a two-man operation.
Okay.
And we're talking about impact, right? Like, what would be the biggest impact is for Woke Salaryman content to reach other countries on like a larger scale. Right now, already reach people far away, but I feel like it's in small pockets. There are people in like Trinidad and Tobago, Nigeria. So it's really cool, but I would love for
a campaign, like we really go inside the country.
I would love to be our generation's reach that product.
Yeah, that's my goal. Yeah, that's our goal.
Yeah, and then that will be real impact. And but that can't be a two-man operation already. Like
I think can. It's just probably you'll need some.
Yeah.
I think still can, but it's going to be damn hard, and we have no life.
Yes, and I think
I want a life.
Yeah, I also want a life. Like I've been hustling since I was 25, so 7 years already. And wow, it's damn tiring. And time to start winding the operations, the hustle operations down by getting people to help.
Yes.
Do you feel like the content itself might change a bit? Because right now, what you're drawing, you deliberately make it as Singaporean as possible, right? Like drawing HDB flats, so it's very recognizable. So if you expand, you will probably change some of the way you do things as well.
I don't think it needs to change in terms of locality, because I mean we consume stuff from Japan. Well, I remember watching Doraemon when I was a kid, and I wondered, hey, why they don't have seats on? Why they all sit on the floor? All these things why do they sleep and then they're going to roll up their stuff and then put it back? And then you just learn it. And then I got very used to seeing the Japanese suburbs, for example. It's just that the Japanese anime culture, for example, and the output was so compelling, right, that we just learned their culture. And I was always wondering, and this was part of my writings that I did as part of my master's thesis, is why can't we do that in Singapore? Why can't we just say Singapore flats are like this? And then people go, hey, why the housing all like that? Why the laundry all hang outside? Then they go and look up, and Singapore is like that. Land scarcity, compact housing, this is national housing development one, and they learn a lesson also. So I don't see why we can't just export Singaporean locality out. And we're facing that a little bit sometimes when our stories reach typically Western audiences, that assume that everything on the content is just made with with United States as a default. But I think it's due to change like that. They will start to just have to reckon with the fact that it's just made overseas. And it's very cool that our stuff is made it so mainstream sometimes that people will see it and start looking at it from a US point of view.
Yeah.
But it's also, I think, a little bit of a limitation on their part, that they should be able to understand that not everything is just made with you as a default.
And I feel like as Singaporeans, like, I mean, who else better to talk about money? I mean, we live in like one of the
I'm not a Singaporean, but I'm very passionate about showing Singapore.
I mean, like we live in the most expensive cities in the world. Our people are trained to be the best employees, not necessarily the best entrepreneurs. So
the Singaporean story and identity actually is a very good place to start talking about.
It's a very good foundation.
Right.
You talk about like wage slavery, right?
So, of course they think that it's understandable why, and they have expertise to talk about.
And talking about like society, like you want to talk about like hyper capitalistic society where we always have to make practical decisions over like things like passion, dreams.
Yeah.
I mean, where else? I mean, there are probably other countries like Japan or this, but Singapore provides like a very good backdrop against.
There is a real story there that we can leverage. So I have no qualms about it being true to Singapore. And I think if we ever have people writing or making stories for us overseas, and they can find their own truth and depict their own setting. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
So I think it doesn't need to be a pure Singapore thing.
It's just honesty, lah. I just like honesty.
As
So
long
if
as-
you are doing it in Brazil, draw the favelas or whatever is true to you.
It's
I'm fine
it's
with
fine.
that.
Yeah. As long as the content helps people.
And what have been, if you will, the biggest highlights so far in doing this?
Biggest highlight.
For me, right, it was when Lee Hsien Loong shared our thing about Father's Day. There was a story about his father getting retrenched in 1997.
Yes.
So Lee Hsien Loong doesn't share a lot of things. His wife shares a lot of things. His wife Ho Ching shares a lot of things, and we've always been gunning for his wife to share. Ho Ching lah.
Yeah.
We've always been gunning for her to share because the likelihood of her sharing something is really high.
Yeah.
She shares a lot of stuff that she finds online.
But we never kena before.
But we always like, wow, one day Ho Ching will share our thing, and then that's the next thing we will take off.
Yeah.
So Ho Ching, I don't think still has shared our thing, but for
Ho Ching, you're watching this.
yeah, share this.
Consider sharing something sometime. Oh my god, please,
Yeah.
please.
So for the PM of the country to share, I just went, wow, what is going on? And then people were texting me, like, oh, congratulations, you guys have made it.
Yeah.
So it was kind of good and also kind of neutral because I started wondering, why is everybody congratulating? So what now? Like, do I just am I rich now? Does money come to me now somehow? Because it's just the PM sharing my thing. But actually, there were a lot of very good ramifications that came out of that. I'm so happy that, in us telling his story, and we took great pains to tell that story.
To keep it authentic.
Yeah, I drew a generic tea factory and I asked him, actually, what does a tea factory look like back in your Father's Day? And he showed me like it was completely different one. So I actually did many versions of shipyards.
There's a lot of attention to detail.
Yeah, that's great. So it's very authentic. And for that to come out in that way, for the leader of the nation to share it in memory of his father, who is actually a great founding father of Singapore, that just it blew my mind.
Yeah.
That was very gratifying for me.
Oh, wow, I never saw it that way. I'm going to tell my dad, hey dad, you compared to founding father of Singapore.
No, there's somebody read your story and thought of Lee Kuan Yew.
Yeah. Shit, that's
and
crazy.
it's Lee Hsien Loong, no, not just anybody.
I text him now. It's his birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Oh, wow. What do you think drives you, I suppose? I think it's very clear there is so much work that's involved. And this is not a sprint, it's a marathon. So what is it that keeps you going constantly doing this?
For me, it's like one is obviously money. If I wasn't earning more than my previous job doing this,
We won't be doing this.
I would not be doing this. I'm not like a Buddha or be like altruistic in that way. No, I'm not Buddha.
Yeah.
The second thing is really impact and knowing that your work helps people. We get it. I mean, we are fortunate to get it like real feedback on whether or not our work sucks or not, or whether or not it's helpful. So that is the kind of feedback you don't really get with a lot of jobs. You know what I mean? Like you can be an accountant, then you can work on it for like 20 years, and the impact is not really. It's quite hard to measure, especially in like a more direct way.
Yeah, unless you are like a stand-up comic, for example. There's not a lot more immediate feedback that you can get. I mean, stand-up comic, you say they laugh or they don't laugh, then that's your feedback. That's even more direct, but I think this is pretty close, right?
So it's like the ikigai, right? Like
you're good at it.
You're
good at it. Society needs it. You earn money from it, and you like doing it. That's the four. That's our ikigai.
Yeah.
For me, also, I feel like money is number one for me.
Yeah.
And now that money is settled, right, I feel like it's great that we kind of have money sort of stable-ish, so we can now start thinking about impact. And for me, the impact that I really like to get is to raise the lower and the middle classes up. Yeah. I genuinely believe that if you start thinking long-term and start thinking just long-term about personal finance, and even just start to think about personal finance, right, that everybody in society benefits, even the people at the top. Because a lot of people talk about reducing the gap by bringing the top down, then giving it a bit more to here.
That's the Margaret Thatcher move, by the way.
Sorry, Margaret Thatcher, right?
That's the Margaret Thatcher move.
I would rather push this, and I want to make sure that this line, I don't care about the gap as much as I want to make sure that the bottom right can move above whatever the
bottom previously was.
Yeah, move it above, and not just the bottom, but a survival point where people can start making long-term decisions about money.
Yeah.
So I had this incident happen to me where my girlfriend's shoes were stolen. And I was very angry at the person who stole it. We eventually found the person and I stalked this person's like Instagram and Facebook and all that. Like, what kind of asshole steals shoes like this? But I also later found out that this person was in and out of prison. He had a very tough life, probably. And I put myself in his shoes, haha. And I realized that, well, for somebody who is barely making ends meet, worrying about making this month and maybe even last month's rent, I have not even paid it yet. How can I expect this person to think about his future, to not get into jail because already having a black record is bad? And if I see a pair of Doc Martens there worth $200 on the resale market, how can I not take it? So everybody to get more enlightened about money, to understand what is realistic targets to hit and how much do I need to earn and to spend to hit my targets in life, I think it will help everybody in society. Not just in terms of what I talked about in terms of like making long-term and then not stealing things and making bad decisions and doing crime, but also in terms of purchasing power for people who start businesses. Everybody wins. So that's what we are doing to help this problem now. We're attacking it from the angle of education and enlightenment to make sure that everybody understands, even at the lowest levels, there is hope and there's things that you can do to make your situation better.
I think people always nowadays like there's like this woke thing going on, like talk about social justice, and they do it in the name of spreading awareness. I raise awareness about income inequality. I raise awareness about mental health. I mean, which is great and all, right? But what is the next step after awareness, right? Is action. I mean, for me, it's always been in action, and I feel it's too easy to get caught up with like, oh, I did awareness, I share this thing, I've done my part. Okay, now I can fuck off. I've done everything already. I always feel like it's the responsibility of people to, if you really believe in it, to start doing tangible things that can help people either like you improve their situation. You know what I mean? If you're trying to help the underprivileged, maybe it's about really giving financial aid. Maybe it's about giving them opportunities. If you want to talk about mental health, maybe it's about giving them free counseling, giving them access to therapy, reducing their wait times to therapy. Because if not, it's just a lot of showboating, a lot of hey, I did this, I shared this thing, therefore I'm a champion of this and that. No, I mean, I don't subscribe to that sort of
having
ideology.
money helps that a lot sometimes.
Yeah. So there's this saying it's always attributed to Gandhi. I don't think Gandhi said it. It's like, but it's nice lah. I still recognize that it's nice. Like be the change you want to see in this world. And for me, like Woke Salaryman is
the change that you want to
that I want to see, that I can actually do with the work that I do and with the money that I have. Yeah.
But also earn money.
Yes, and also earn money.
So we've been talking about personal finance so much. For those who are just starting into it, what other tangible steps they can action to start on their journey?
Most important thing, like if I want to say only one thing, is to figure out how to earn more money. Understand supply and demand, understand why you're paid this way versus like someone who's paid more. Increasing your earning power is the most important personal finance move you can do that has the most impact. That is the big one. Like,
especially when you're starting from the bottom or you're just starting from
especially from you 0 to 100k, 200k. This is the most important thing.
So maybe you say what are the 3 things that people do to increase wealth?
Yes. So earning. Yeah. So
earning.
Yeah. Earning, saving, and then investing. Yeah. So obviously saving is always there. You just don't spend like a ridiculous amount of money. You just live below your means. That's very clear. But earning is slightly more complicated because there's like an ego thing involved, right? Like you tell people like, hey, you should earn more money. Like, why is money so important? Then there's like that whole veneer of like, I don't want to earn more money because I'm not so money minded. People are afraid to be seen as money minded. But I think if you in reality, most people will be better off making more money, right? I think it's damn rare to find someone who's like, oh my god, I wish I didn't make so much money. I think that type of person is very rare. So to earn more money, you just need to find out like what skills are in demand. What do people need, and then learning how to market yourself to actually score those jobs that people want to do, right? There is a great deal in knowing how to do something. There's a great difference in knowing how to do something versus telling someone you know how to do something and getting the role. I think Singaporeans and maybe Malaysians to some extent, we are quite like reserved people. So always like quite paiseh to talk about, you know, our achievements or what we can do, what we can value at the company, even like negotiate salary. So many times we sell ourselves short as opposed to like the more assertive cultures.
Which is typically more Western.
Yeah, yeah.
They're good at it.
Yeah, you know, I want to be paid $8,000, and then people say, oh yeah, $8,000 fine. Then you have like the underpaid local who's there because the salary hasn't increased, because they don't dare to ask. They feel paiseh. Maybe it's like they expect like the salary to be increased every year. I would say like just get all your, just push past all this like mental uh, gymnastics and like be very clear on how much you want to earn and really go ask for it. I think that's the number one most important thing. The other one is like live below your means. So obviously, if you cannot afford something, you don't buy lah. In Singapore, typically the things that people overspend on is like their house. You know, they buy a house that is too big for them, in a location that is too central for them, and a car. You know, Singapore is quite a convenient place. I mean, compared to
Malaysia. It's just very small.
Yeah. So these are the two big things I would say that kill people's finances. And the issue is actually about opportunity cost. Because instead of buying these things, you could have invested the money and be making money instead, versus buying these things. And I mean, for a car in Singapore, it expires after 10 years. So that's it. It's quite a bad investment. And for a house, right, unless you can sell your house, you don't really monetize your house. You can't really earn money from it. Or unless you rent out, which a lot of Singaporeans also don't do, because very shy, very paiseh also. So living below your means is also really important. The last one is start investing early. But when I say investing, I don't mean like picking stocks. Because all the effort to pick stocks when you are damn young, I don't think it's worth the time. I think some personal finance experts out there will disagree. Some bloggers out there will also disagree. But I mean, we to each their own, right? The time is better spent increasing your income. That doesn't mean you should not invest at all. You just invest through the index or passive investing. So this is like either like through a robo advisor, or you buy like these things called index funds or ETFs yourself. Or if you really like are clueless about money, like worst case scenario, you can go through a financial advisor. Or all three of these are fine. Important thing is to start investing early, because I mean, I'm sure you heard of like the magic of compounding. So you know, compound interest. You know, last time you press the calculator, then the more times you press, the number become bigger and bigger. That's essentially what the power of compounding is, lah. So the idea of like first you have 100%, then you earn 7% interest, then it's 107%. Then you earn 7% of that,
which is
I don't know lah. Don't stress me. Yeah, then 7% of that, and you repeat it over and over again until you get a lot of money.